Hello, David. How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing wonderful. Thank you, Ash.
Hey, do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you, you would like to share with our audience?
Absolutely, sure. It's not really a favorite quote, but it's more of a motto. It's doing what you enjoy to make the most out of life and giving back to others, so that to grab that personal gratitude that you get from doing the things that you love. And if you're able to help and make something better in other people's lives, it just makes it all the more difference. And it's it's just invigorating to do the things that you love and are blessed to be able to do.
Indeed, indeed. Um, this has been one of my life's goal to make sure that whenever we have a episode going live or recording and then publishing it, we communicate this to our listeners that we understand that you need to provide for the family, you need to provide for yourself, but there is a time comes into your life when you want to say, okay, should I keep doing what I really hate doing, or should I do something which I like to do and then proceed with my life from that point onwards, right? That's where the founder's world comes into the scene, isn't it? That's where you want to do something which you're passionate about. You want, you love doing that in working in that space, and that's how you proceed. All right. So, David, imagine this then. We are in a room full of ambitious founders and early stage builders, right? No one knows your name, and you have got just few minutes to introduce yourself, not with your title or where you have worked or what startups you have built, but with the stories that explain why people should trust what you have to say. How would you begin?
That's a great question, Ash. I would begin by being just genuine and authentic. I would make whoever I'm speaking to at that moment make sure that they feel that they are the only one in the room. I think even as a if I was speaking in front of a broad group of people, I would try to make them feel as if I am directly speaking to them. I would build that trust. I would have that earnest feel and telling them that you need to begin. There is no perfect execution, there is no perfect time. The time is now, and it's okay to make mistakes. Failures are lessons in reevaluating and fine tuning your business. So I believe that the first thing that you need to do is just find that personal connection, find that trust, that relationship that you can build off of, because everybody has got something to offer. And if you can find a way to cohesively make that work together and blend, you can go a long ways with just trust and building that rapport.
Indeed, indeed. And couldn't agree more with you on this one because if you understand your audience, if you understand what value you could add into their life, even if you're there just for a couple of minutes, then you're in more control over what you want to speak about.
Exactly.
Right. Let's talk about Royal Restrooms. You have been a co founder and CEO of Royal Restroom. Talk to our listeners about what is it about, what is the product or service do, who is it for, and what's the main problem you were helping to solve with this venture of yours?
Right. So that is a. Sorry, Ash. I'm having. I can't. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I can't hear you anymore. Ash. Yes. Royal Restrooms has. We've been operating it for almost 22 years now. Royal Restrooms is a portable restroom trailer business. We supply restrooms to outdoor events, weddings, special events, sporting events. What what really inspired that business is the need for a better product in sanitation outside. The origin stories are kind of funny. It evolved from a Shakespeare in the Park festival where I was taking my children. She was potty training. We had a terrible experience. And I walked out and I'm just like, why are we going to the bathroom in porta potties? Certainly, there will always be a need for a porta potty, but we're at a nice, like super nice event, and we have porta potties. It didn't make sense at all. And I knew that there had to be a better option out there. So it wasn't really something that was, I guess, it was needed in the market, but people weren't thinking about it because they had just accepted what was there. And I think all entrepreneurs have this, creativity, this innate sense to want to problem solve, to make things just a little bit better. And I believe a lot of those things come down to, if it makes you feel better, if it makes something easier on you, it will probably make something a little bit more convenient or nicer for someone else as well. So give it a try. The the biggest hurdles that we came over was that disruption in the business. Because we wanted to change the market, people fought us on it. They said that, this is stupid. It's a porta potty. Nobody's going to do that. But the funny thing is when people actually used our facility, they walked out. This is the greatest thing. I can't believe how simple this is. Why didn't I think of this? And we earned customers through usage, not through publicity, not through, trying to market this and shove it down people's throat. We earned our reputation based on people using our product. And with that review, it spread like wildfire.
Got it. So you went
Got it,
to
got it. So
an
you
event
went
with your
to
family.
an event with your
Your
family.
daughter was potty
Your
trained. You
daughter
had to
was potty
use
trained.
something
You
which was
had to use something which
inconvenient,
was
and that's where you got
inconvenient,
the idea
and that's
about
where you
building
got the
something which
idea
is
about building
more
something which
homely, more
is
posh,
more
more
homely,
royal.
more posh, more
Um,
royal.
what
Um,
I want to
what
understand how
I
you
want to
built the
understand how you
product
built the product
and what are the steps you
and
took
what are the
to
steps
build
you
it
took
as
to
per your
build it
vision.
as per your vision.
Right. So, Ash, at the beginning, our vision was simply, how do we change the perception? How do we make a real functioning restroom on a trailer? And so it's not that it was all that difficult to do. It was just finding the right mixture, I guess, is maybe a good thing. How do you build this properly? There's RVs out there, there are marine toilets, there's boats, they all have bathrooms, there's airplanes, they have bathrooms. Why can't we have something on just a regular trailer? And so we started with just that. We built out our diagram. How big do we need this to be? What are the things that we think that we will need? Like water. What if there's no water? What about power? How are we going to do this with the least amount of voltage? Do we go 12 volt? What about the lights, the doors? All of that stuff is really available. It's not like we were building a rocket or anything like that. We were building a bathroom on a trailer. We just did it in a smaller scale. Um, Primarily, I guess you could say it was a septic tank on wheels. We had a big holding tank. We had to make sure that that was reinforced. We had to make sure that the trailer and the axle could support the weight. And then from there, we fine tuned it on things that we thought were relevant, what we were looking at. As you said, I took my daughter to a porta potty when she was potty training. I had my youngest on my hip. When we walked inside, we couldn't fit. We were turning around. We were stuck. It was like, don't touch this, don't touch that. There's no lights. There's nowhere to wash your hands. It's a bucket. So we built the trailer so that you could have maneuverability in there. We built it so that we had lights, we had a vanity, we had sinks, it was climate controlled, we had real flushing toilets. And we put all of this in a trailer and we made it comfortable.
Very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
So
So talk to us more
how did you got
about
your first
how did
customer?
you
Because
got your first
on
customer?
Founders
Because
Podcast we have
on
all
Founders Podcast we have
great
all
guests who have
great
created these
guests
great
who have
companies with
created these
products.
great companies with
But the
products,
challenging part
but the
was
challenging
gaining
part
the
was
traction in the
gaining the
initial days.
traction in the
What
initial
was
days.
your
What
strategy to
was
get
your
your first
strategy
customer?
to get your
And
first
then once
customer?
you got your
And
first
then once you
customer,
got your first
what
customer,
after that you
what
did
after
for
that
your
you
business to
did for
gain
your
your
business to
first
gain
10
your
customers?
first 10 customers?
So when we first started Royal Restrooms, our our clientele, we thought that everybody would want to use it. But we also knew that we were bringing a kind of a high ticket priced item to what had used to be a low ticket item. Granted, we were providing a real restroom, but most of our clients were used to paying a porta potty price, so they're used to paying $100, whereas we're trying to charge $700 or $800 for what the service that we have. Looking at that, we knew that our market had to be high end at the beginning. So we focused our attention on weddings and super high events, because weddings are yes, they're a one-off, but you get to work with some event planners. They see your product, and usually a wedding, they want something that's elevated. They don't want a porta potty. They want something that is nice, that they can walk into, that they feel comfortable at. Because most of the time we're in our suits, our tuxedos, people are in dresses, wedding dresses. You don't want to go to a porta potty in a wedding dress. So that was our first easy target that we went to. After that, Robert and I were both community leaders. We were on boards of several nonprofits. We started giving back to the community using our product in the community, helping out through in-kind donations. And we were able to physically get out with the product during that March of Dimes walk or that buddy walk, and we could talk to people. Hey, how was this? Did you like it? What kind of changes would you want? So we were fine-tuning that process while we were also building the business and selling and marketing it. So we were making sure that we crossed off all, aspects, some things that we didn't think about, because my individual needs are different from your individual needs. And one of those things, like you said, is our product elevated the event, but it also created something that people didn't want to go back to. So every one of our charity events that we went to, every one of our weddings, we got rental business. We got more business because people used our product and there wasn't anything else like it on the market. So we escalated relatively quickly, and to our surprise, we were not ready for that demand.
And you
Got it.
touched a
And
little
you
bit
you
around
touched a little bit
the
around
first ideal
the
customer
first
persona for you
ideal
was
customer
high-end
persona for you
weddings
was
and high-end
high-end
events, right?
weddings and high-end events, right?
What was the
What was
strategy?
the
Did you
strategy?
literally
Did
search
you
for wedding
literally
event
search for wedding
organizations
event
in your local area,
organizations in
call
your
them
local
up,
area, call
cold
them
call
up,
fashion, or
cold
did you
call
email them?
fashion, or did you
Did you
email
literally
them?
just
Did you literally
went to the
just
events they're doing and
went to the
then
events they're
say,
doing
"Oh,
and
I'm
then
building
like
this
say,
strawl
oh, I'm
restaurant.
building
These are
this
the pictures."
straw restroom,
What
these are
was
the
the
pictures?
strategy you
What
used
was the
to get your
strategy you
first
used
customer?
to get your
Because
first
obviously
customer?
your
Because
product was
obviously
high end.
your
It was
product was high end. It was
7 times more expensive than
seven
a
times more expensive
normal
than a
expenditure for
normal
the event.
expenditure for the
This
event.
is what I'm interested in,
This
because
is what
the
I'm
reason
interested
I'm
in,
saying that
because
is
the reason I'm
this is what
saying
the
that is
founders needs to
this is
learn
what the founders
from a
needs to learn
seasoned
from a
founder like yourself.
seasoned founder
What
like yourself.
you have to
What
do on the
you
ground
have to
to
do on the
gain
ground to
confidence
gain
of your customers so that they
confidence
can
of your
give their
customers so that
credit card,
they
their
can
that
give their credit card,
hard-earned
their
money to you.
hard earned money to you.
Well, back then it was, 22 years ago, it was still a traditional marketing platform. You advertised in the newspaper, you had a telephone book, all of that stuff. But what we did originally was there was a list in the Savannah paper every Sunday that came out, and it would list all the bride announcements or all the wedding engagements that were going on. We wrote letters to each and every one of those brides and sent a flyer to them in the mail. Every Sunday, I would send 12 to 15 handwritten notes with a flyer telling them, congratulations, this is our product. If you need us, we're here. We'd love to help. We also did trade shows, but we also would meet with event planners. We would go by with a dozen donuts or 2 dozen donuts and a gallon of coffee and go physically to their place of business and say, can I show you our restroom? Here's 2 dozen donuts and here's a gallon of coffee for your staff. I'm going to set it up in your parking lot. So we did a lot of grassroots branding and meet and greets to get out there. Back then, there wasn't really, we didn't even have a website for the first year of business. It was a website, but it was more like, it just looked like a page. It wasn't even, I don't know, it was goofy looking. It was just something that it really looked bad, to be quite honest. But our flyers look good. We were able to produce print flyers and mailers and stuff like that. But yeah, we got out there and kind of groveled. We were like the door-to-door salesman with a bathroom, but we came kind of bearing gifts. So they allowed us in and looked at it, and most of them were like blown away. And a lot of companies in the beginning tried to use us. They just didn't get their clients to come off the dollar.
Great. So can
Great.
you give us
So,
so
so
so you've
can
been
you
in the
give
business
us
for
a sense?
22
So you've
years.
been
Can
in
you
the
can you
business
give
for
us a
22
sense
years.
of the
Can you give
size
us
of
a
the
sense
business?
of
Where
the
are
size
you
of
in
the
terms of
business? Where are
revenue, number
you
of
in terms of
customers, size
revenue,
of
number of
team?
customers, size of team?
Yeah, so we franchise the business out. We've got roughly close to 50 individual offices across the country right now. So our gross revenues are really hard to kind of calculate because my Royal Restrooms, even though that we're the founders, we only have one local office. And I would say collectively, all of our businesses across the country, we're probably somewhere in the $30 million range right now, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
more.
And
And
okay, great. And what about the
okay,
number of
great.
people who
And
are
what about
like
the number
working
of
for you,
people
like
who are like
primary
working
Royal
for you, like
bathrooms
primary Royal Bathrooms,
employees,
like employees?
I would say there's probably about 250.
including all the franchisees or
Including all
Yes.
the franchisees or
It's
without
still
them?
our business is primarily
Including all the.
a drop-off service. We don't go after a lot of the big events that you have to have a lot of staff and mobility. We are a system that is very
Mm-hmm.
rooted from a local ownership perspective. So we may have a lot of drivers and a lot of cleaners, but we don't. We usually have a salesman, and then we have your owner and some book staff. So usually it's not a high employee, I guess, busy bee, a lot of work. It's a lot of more meaningful work.
indeed.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
that tells
So
me that you had
that
so
tells me that you
many
had so
different
many
experiences during last
different
22 years
experiences
because
during last
running
22
a
years,
business is
because
not just
running a
about
business
building a
is
product
not just
and
about
selling,
building a
right?
product and
You have to
selling,
take
right?
care of the
You
payroll, you
have
have to
to
take
take
care
care of the
of
payroll, you have to
the
take care
manufacturing, you
of
have to take care of
the
the quality
manufacturing, you have
control,
to
you have
take
to
care of
take
the
care of
quality
the
control, you have to
processes,
take care of
and
the
most importantly,
processes,
you have to take
and
care of your
most importantly, you
customers,
have to
their
take care of your
feedbacks and their
customers, their
inquiries.
feedbacks, and their inquiries.
Tell me,
Tell
so
me,
imagine, David,
so imagine, David,
back you
you
back in your
back
early
you're
ages
back
where
in your
you started
early
thinking
ages
about
where
this
you
business, right?
started thinking
If you
about
had
this
to
business, right?
redo
If you had
the
to
business
redo
again
the
now,
business again
so
now,
in 2025,
so in
what
2025,
would you do differently?
what
How
would
would you
you do differently?
proceed?
How would
Because
you
now you have all
proceed?
this
Because
technology,
now
AI
you
in
have
the
all this
scene,
technology,
you
AI
have
in this
Google,
scene,
you
you
have
have
all these kind of
Google,
things.
you have all these kind
What
of
would
things.
you advise to the
What would you
founders, the
advise to the
new
founders, the
blood in the
new
market,
blood
to
in the
do,
market,
or
to
or just
do,
by giving
or
your
or
example?
just by
Okay,
giving your
if
example?
I
Okay,
had to do it now,
if I
once
have to
again,
do it
this is
now,
how I would do
once
it.
again, this is how I would do it.
Right. So how we started and how we would do today are very vastly two different directions that we would go in. However, the underlying effort would be like you have to know your business in and out, and you have to know each process that goes into it. So a founder today that's looking to build their business, they need to understand what AI does. They need to understand social media, and all of the platforms it takes a lot of time, but you need to know how to market them. You need to know how to effectively use them. Because now, just because you have a website and just because you may have an Instagram or something, that doesn't get you to the top anymore. from a searchability. So many people are so focused on content-driven information that is a full-time job now. And maybe several people, because there's so many things that you have to keep up with. I would invest a lot of my time in making sure that I have relevant information consistently across all platforms. And that is a big, huge time suck, but that is what you need to learn. I wouldn't even think about trying to franchise my business. I would just make sure that I am consistently branding my business from, logos to the clothes that I wear to what I'm putting out on social. It has to match, it has to be knowledgeable, and it has to be pertinent information. So learn how to do all that, but do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent.
Okay, great. So being
Okay,
an
great.
entrepreneur in the
So, being
world,
an entrepreneur in the
understanding your
world,
market,
understanding your
your ideal customer
market, your
persona, this
ideal
is
customer
brilliant.
persona, this is
Um,
brilliant. Um,
Talk to us more about
Talk to us more
the
about
strategies you have
the
used to
strategies you
grow
have
your
used
business
to
from,
grow
let's
your
say,
business
you
from,
had
let's
your first
say,
100
you
customers,
had
it
your
was going
first
all
100
well, you
customers,
got
it
all
was
this
going all
feedback,
well, you got
you
all this feedback,
reinforced all
you
the feedback into
reinforced
the
all the
product. What
feedback
did you
into the
do after
product.
that
What
to
did you
grow
do
the
after
business to
that to grow
multi-million
the
dollar
business
business?
to multi-million dollar business?
I think a lot of that had to do with the change in, people's perspective. Once they realized there was another option out there, something that more matched what they were used to doing and using, it really changed that the dynamics. I mean, we changed the entire portable sanitation industry in the U.S. People demanded what we wanted. So it wasn't so much that we were ready for that expansion. It was forced kind of upon us. We were pushed into a corner to expand. And Robert and I, we weren't ready for that. And that's okay. As a business owner, that's okay. The business changes, the model changes. You just have to be ready for the task. Uh, being something that is uncomfortable and something that is challenging and something that is pushing you, that shows your commitment to your business and what you're doing. And that also tells you that you're on the right path, that you're doing something that is going to be bigger than what you envisioned. To
Mm.
answer that question directly though, our business expanded. It took a life of its own rather than it wasn't anything that we did directly. We had people that wanted our product across the U.S., and people said, I need this in my city. I want to be just like you. I want to do what you're doing. I don't want to go through the hiccups because it is a brand new business. They don't want to have to go through the trials and tribulations that we did, which made having a franchise the best option for us. And myself, I there are certain things that I love. There are certain things that I am very good at, and there are certain things that my business partner Robert are very good at. But one of the things that we realized quickly was in Savannah, it is a very local business. You need to be the face of your business locally. So franchising was the best thing for us from an expansion standpoint.
Got it.
Got it. That's amazing.
Got it. That's
Okay,
amazing.
so before we move
Okay,
into
so
our
before we
lightning round,
move
then
into our
I would
lightning
like to
round,
ask
then
you a
I would
personal
like to
question.
ask you a
Throughout your
personal
journey and
question. Throughout
experience,
your
there must
journey
have
and
been some
experience, there must
valuable
have
lessons
been
learned.
some
If
valuable
you don't
lessons
mind
learned.
sharing,
If you don't
could you
mind
reflect
sharing,
on
could you
your experiences
reflect
and tell us
on your
about more
experiences and tell us
one
about more one
mistake or a setback that you
mistake or a
encountered
setback
along the
that
way
you
that
encountered
you
along the
now
way
consider
that you now
not a
consider
regret but as lessons
not a
learned?
regret, but as
And
lessons
additionally, what
learned? And
advice would you
additionally,
give
what
to our
advice
listeners
would you
based on
give
this
to our
experience?
listeners based on this experience?
Right, Ash, the biggest lesson that I probably learned is you don't have to have an ego, you don't have to have pride, swallow it. If you don't know something, that is perfectly fine. But ask the right people. You don't have to ask the person or use the person that's coming trying to sell you something. do your research, learn a little bit about it, but don't get your head out of the sand. You don't know everything. There are, and the other thing, we didn't build the business by ourselves. There are hundreds of people that help build our business. Use the right resources to learn. It's not a sale. You don't have to go after the sales pitch. Whoever sells sounds the best. What aligns with you and your thinking? We tried to organically grow the business because we had a lot of people wanting to do our business. We had a lot. We should have used a franchise broker, somebody that knew the process, because a franchise relationship is very much like a marriage. I, Marriage is probably a word that I've used way too often when I've partnered with a franchise and a franchisor. We needed to understand that dynamics. We had no background in it. We had no knowledge. We were going into it like we were friends, business partners. We're going to make a bunch of money. That's not what happens. It's a business alliance. You know, I have the product, I have the brand name, I have the tools to teach you how to do it. You have the determination on the ground. You are somebody that has the grit, has, the will to move the tools that I've given you to build another business. Originally, we're like going in as buddies. Like, we're friends, we're going to go, you know, have this football game and go drinking at the thing. We're going to do a business. No, you need to go to the experts. You need to interview them. You need to be prepared. When you don't know something, learn it. Go find who can do this for you, and you'll find the right mix of people. Like I said, our biggest hurdle was we thought we could do it ourselves when we really couldn't.
Got it. The
Got it.
point
So you,
taken is
the point taken is
making sure you're connected with the right
making sure
people
you're
at the right
connected with the
time,
right
making
people at the
sure
right
you're asking
time,
right
making
questions
sure
to
you're
the right
asking right
people.
questions to the
Do
right
not
people.
have ego
Do
and
not
think that
have
you can do everything
ego and
yourself,
think that you
because
can do
business is
everything
kind of
yourself,
like an
because business
enterprise
is
where you
kind of
have to
like an
make
enterprise
key
where you have to
connections,
make
which
key
not just
connections,
help you to
which not
grow
just help
alongside,
you
but
to
you
grow
also help them
alongside, but
grow
you also help them
when you're
grow
growing the business
when you're
altogether.
growing the business
Uh,
altogether.
is there anything
Um,
else? Did I miss
is there
anything,
anything else?
or
Did I
is it
miss
No, I
anything?
think
Or
that
this
that
is kind
that's
of
the one
like where
that
you
is the that was the biggest hurdle, I think, with almost everything is, how does this affect me rather than how does it affect the business? I used a lot of gut rather than a lot of knowledge building this business, and my gut was right a lot of times, but my gut also caused me a lot of problems over the years, and costly mistakes that could have been avoided if it was properly set up in the beginning.
got it?
got it.
Great. So let's move to our
Great. So
lightning
let's
round then.
move to
We
our
have six
lightning
quick
round
fire
then.
questions
We
for
have
you.
six
You can
quick fire
answer them.
question for you. You can answer them.
These questions
These
are
questions
not very
are
specific to your
not
industry,
very
but I'll try
specific
to
to your
make them
industry, but I'll
specific.
try to
And
make
if
them
you don't
specific.
find
If
any
you don't
of these
find
questions
any
interesting, you can
of this
skip them
question
and then we
interesting, you
can
can
go on to the
skip
next
them
one.
and then we
You
can
ready?
go on to the next
Go
one.
for it.
You
I'm
ready?
ready.
Great. What's the
Great.
top three
What's the
strategies
top
to
three
generate more
strategies to
leads
generate
in
more
event
leads
industry in
in event
2025?
industry in 2025?
I think the top three strategies are, one, kind of what we touched on earlier, is social media. You have to develop that social media. You have to put out relevant content. You have to put out knowledgeable content. Even if you're not getting the leads, you are building followers. You are building brand recognition. Two, you have to use paid ads in your market. It's a crowded workspace right now, and a website with, even if it is highly SEO'd, you're going to get outbid by competitors that haven't invested any money at all, but they've just thrown a few dollars up there on the Google ads. And three, I think the next thing is videos and podcast. Being able to talk about your business, being able to share your ideas, being able to share your experience really resonates back with people, and especially those that are unsure, that do need to learn information, that are trying to make themselves a little better. This is how you do it. I mean, I just started listening to Masterclass, and it is absolutely amazing online. Like I bet I listened to 15 hours over the weekend.
That's amazing.
Wow,
What
that's amazing.
book would you
What
recommend to our
book
audience
would
and
you
why?
recommend to our audience and why?
So right now I'm in the middle of two books. One is Ted Lasso, The Lasso Way. I love that show. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but it does.
Seen it a little bit.
Yeah,
Seen it a little
it's
bit.
probably
Yep.
quirky, but I enjoyed that. So I'm starting to read that book. But the other one that I was reading that I've really enjoyed is Storyworthy. It's by Matthew Dix, and he talks about the moth.
Yep.
And to me, that is fascinating. I want to be better. I would love to be able to get up on the moth one day and be able to tell a story, because right now I can't tell a story to save my life.
Yeah. No, Matthew Dig is amazing.
Yeah.
We
No,
had
Matthew
him
Dig is amazing. We had
on our
him
show,
on
I
our
think
show, I think
last year.
last year.
And when we
And
started talking about the
when
stories,
we
he shared
started talking
so
about the
many
stories, he
stories
shared
on the
so many
episode. Oh my
stories on
God, I
the
loved it.
episode. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
I
I
do
loved
follow
it.
his,
I do follow
yeah,
his,
I have read
yeah,
almost all of his
I have
books.
read
So if you
almost all
need
of
an
his books.
introduction, give me a
So if you
shout.
need an
I'll be happy
introduction,
to
give me a shout.
introduce you
I'll
to
be
him.
happy
oh,
to
I would
introduce
love
you with
to.
him.
Thank you.
What?
No problem. My pleasure.
No
What's
problem.
one
My pleasure.
attribute or
What's
characteristic
one
in your mind
attribute or
of a successful
characteristic in your
founder?
mind of a successful founder?
What is one attribute? I go back to, I always lean back into gratitude, but I think that the most important thing is am I producing, or am I doing something that enhances other people's lives in some way? And that's what I strive for. I want to make sure what I'm putting out there and what I'm doing is better or enhance some, even if they don't know that I've enhanced it, that's a win, because it wasn't a problem for them. I solved something. So I've got a quick story, if you don't mind. I was recently, or this was a long time ago, I went into a grocery store and I had my Royal Restroom shirt on, and the lady says, "Do you work for Royal Restrooms?" And I was like, "Well, absolutely. Have you used our bathrooms? Do you like them?" And the lady started crying, and she said, "We used one of your ADA handicap bathrooms, and it is so nice that you have taken that extra step to go to the links to help, the elderly and the handicapped, that we it has been such a problem all of our lives that it made the event wonderful. We were so proud, and I just have to give you a hug." And I walked out of there like, holy cow, I haven't seen it from that side. We built it to the specs, but I haven't lived their life. I didn't know how much of an issue it was, or a problem, that she had acted like we had saved her world. And it was just so meaningful that I remember calling my wife, and I'm just like, can you believe this? This is what just happened. I just had this overwhelming feeling. I'm blessed. My family is blessed, and I'm glad that, what, we did something right. We did something good. We made a change.
Indeed, indeed. And all these
Indeed, indeed.
stories
And
affected
all these
by
stories
your
affected
service, your
by
product
your service, your
comes
product,
back to you, and then you
comes back
feel
to you, and then
that
you feel that
maybe you're not Elon Musk,
maybe you're
or
not
maybe
Elon
you're not Bill
Musk,
Gates,
or
but
maybe you're
you
not Bill
had a
Gates, but
teeny
you
tiny
had a
piece
teeny
of
tiny
you
piece of
which will
you
remember you
which will remember
for the
you
eternity
for the
and help people
eternity
out,
and help
uh,
people out,
even
uh,
once we are gone,
even
right?
once we are
That's
gone,
the best
right?
feeling in the world.
That's the best
I can
feeling in the
imagine
world.
that.
That's the
Thank you for
I can
sharing
legacy.
imagine
that
that. So
story,
thank
David.
you
I
for
really
sharing that
appreciate
story,
it.
David. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your favorite personal
What's your
productivity
favorite
tool or
personal
habit?
productivity tool or habit?
I would probably say it is continuing to learn, continuing to push yourself, stepping out of your comfort zone to be uncomfortable. It's I think all too often we get into this routine of, we eat the same food, we dress the same, we wear the same shoes, we, like the same color. Try something different, because you never know the reaction of what others are going to be, but you never know what brainwaves it's going to open up in new experiences, and you're able to see things in a different light. Uh, I am not a very good public speaker, but a few weeks ago I started taking improv classes to push myself. I am very uncomfortable, especially when I'm made to be a Japanese Pokemon or something like that, and pretend like and it's like, I don't even know what this is, or I'm a tailor for an ant colony. Um, you know, Coming up with those spur of the moment, it has really opened up my mind from being just informational to more memory and creative. And I just don't stop learning. Don't learning is moving forward, and you need to keep moving forward.
Indeed, indeed. What's a
Indeed,
new or a
indeed.
crazy
What's a
business
new
idea
or a
you would love
crazy
to
business
pursue if
idea
you
you
had
would
time?
love to pursue if you had time?
Oh wow. I would say that uh, right now is I've got this crazy idea for a new grill, and I would love to do it. My wife says, no, you're not starting any other business. You can't do it. You've already got 5 or 6 under your belt, and you're already kind of working way too much. And I'm like, but you know what? I'm having fun 90% of the time.
Grill
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
good to me.
Grill sounds
We
good
do
to me.
quite a lot of barbecue
We do quite a lot of
in
barbecue
England, so
in
why not?
England, so yeah,
And last
why
but
not?
not least, what's an
And last
interesting
but
or
not
fun
least,
fact
what's an
about you that
interesting or
most
fun
people
fact
don't know?
about you that most people don't know?
I well, I would say a lot of people. I build Legos. In my to some part of my downtime is I build Lego sets, and I build them with my son. Um, we kind of share that moment, but even though I'm the one that takes up probably more of the time in building my different Star Wars, or I guess right now it's Fortnite. He's wanting to build Fortnite stuff, but I like building the new Legos. We're getting ready to go on a cruise, and sure enough, we brought 3 Legos to take on the cruise, just to pass some of the time, the downtime, because I'm able to not really think. I'm just fingers moving and brain turning, trying to keep that creative side up.
Yeah, yeah. We we
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we
We
built
we
a
we
Lego
we built a
library
Lego
Oh
library
wow.
a couple of months back, so I
couple
I
of months
remember
back, so I remember.
that's quite fun. So
That's
yeah,
quite
great.
fun. So yeah,
Great,
great.
David. Thank you so much
Great,
for
David,
joining
thank
me
you
and
so
sharing
much for
your
joining
story,
me and sharing your
unpacking
story,
years of building this
unpacking
business and
years
some
of
of the ups
building
and
this
downs
business
along the
and some
way.
of the ups and
People
downs
want to
along
get
the
in
way.
touch with you.
People
They
want to
want to
get
check
in
out your
touch with you, they
profile.
want to
What's the
check out your
best way to do it?
profile. What's the best way to do it?
Yeah, Ash. So I am right in the middle of starting my website, my personal brand website, davidsowers.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under David Sowers, but my main business, Royal Restrooms, which supplies portable restrooms throughout the U.S. We would love to be a part of your next event or wedding, which you can find us at royalrestrooms.com or any of those social media outlets under Royal Restrooms.
Great stuff. David,
Awesome.
thank you
Great
so much
stuff.
for joining us
David, thank
today
you
and
so
sharing
much
your
for joining us
inspiring
today and
journey
sharing
and
your
the impactful
inspiring
work
journey
you're
and the
doing
impactful
through
work you're
Royal
doing
Restaurant. It's
through
been an
Royal Restaurant.
absolute
It's been an
pleasure having you
absolute
on
pleasure
Founders
having
Podcast.
you on Founders
Thank you, Ash.
Podcast.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a wonderful day.
Great, we did it in